Could great TV stop cops nicking robbers?
And now the first couple to compete in tonight's dance-off is...
Shh.
Only a TV licence gets you access to a shoulder shimmy like that.
Hello, lovely to meet you. I'm so glad you liked my status, because honestly, I clicked on your Facebook and I saw your photos, and whoa. I'm wondering if you're free tomorrow to meet up. I'm single and I'd like to get to know you. Bad boy with a good heart, that's my motto.
Next, this lunchtime concern is growing for the welfare of a teenager from Dorset. 19-year-old Gaia Pope was last seen on Tuesday. Her family don't think she has...
I first heard Gaia's story on the news. What struck me was how isolated and remote this place is. Can't understand why she came here. Mystery still surrounds what happened to Gaia.
Hundreds of residents have joined police and the Coast Guard to look for the 19-year-old.
It's almost exactly a week since Gaia Pope was last seen in this neighbourhood.
There were some rumours that she had got taken.
Her clothes were just kind of like sprinkled. Her knickers, her underwear, it made my stomach churn.
Detectives investigating the disappearance of Gaia Pope have now launched a murder inquiry.
Did Dorset Police do as much as they could have done? Probably not.
What drove Gaia to that cliff top? What was she running from? Who was she running from?
There was one boy. He had messaged her on Facebook.
We knew what he was like.
It gets more and more and more extreme.
You can see a change in her. Something has left her feeling desperate.
With only a couple of clicks on social media, she could have never expected the danger there was to come.
Hope you're ready for a naughty show, you piece of...
Can I follow? Oh, I ask you, why not always be the ocean?
Police inquiries, can I help you?
I've been advised by crisis line to call emergency.
So who is it regarding? Gaia. G-A-I-A. Okay, let me have a description. She's 19 and she's got long, mousy blonde hair. She's wearing greyish leggings and white pumps. You know, she's vulnerable. Yeah. She needs help. Police inquiries, can I help you? I've already spoken to you. I haven't heard anything. I've just this minute come up because I've been out looking for her. I don't know what to do with her. You're just going to have to slow down.
She's gone off. She's run out of the house.
I've knocked on doors. I've done all sorts of things. I don't know where she is.
I need some help.
I remember the day that I first heard about Gaia and her disappearance. I remember seeing her photo. Her and I were literally the same age, so when I saw that, I think I just really connected with that story, and there's always been questions in my mind ever since seeing that. Gaia lived in a tiny village on the edge of Swanage. Her body was discovered just 2 miles from the family home.
Hello, Sarah.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
How are
lovely.
you?
And here we have Nala with her greeting.
Hi.
I think the cushion's for you.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
it.
Can I
She's
have
always
it?
Got to have a gift.
She's really, really sweet.
How are you?
It is very hard on a day-to-day basis. There are lots of questions that need to be answered because nothing's been resolved. She leaves such a huge gap. She was so dynamic, so funny.
Gaia was one of 3 sisters. Older sister Clara and identical twin Maya.
Hey! Maya! Get up!
How old were you in this picture?
About 8 or 9. So I'm in the bottom left, and there's Gaia bang in the middle.
And what was Gaia like?
She was quite confident.
With the window facing west.
I saw Gaia as this beautiful princess.
With your hands across your chest.
The bond is not like any other. Identical twins.
There are twins in Swanage, but we were sort of known as the twins. When we were teenagers, Gaia was diagnosed with epilepsy and I had autism. So growing up, Gaia was really helpful to me.
Before she went missing, I remember being at the bus stop. I'd been on the phone to Gaia. She sounded terrified. I told her, we will keep you safe. But that was the last phone call I had with my twin sister. Every time I comb my hair and I look in the mirror, I can see the resemblance. So I just keep my hair short. I don't understand how this has happened to my sister.
It's been 5 years since Gaia disappeared. Her body was eventually found here, 11 days after she went missing. It's part of the Dorset coast, known to locals as Dancing Ledge. I think you can see it on the news as much as you like, but when you're actually here in this landscape and thinking of a 19-year-old running through these fields in the middle of winter, I wouldn't want to be out here on my own. Why here? Why was she running? And what was she running from?
Dorset Police. Hello? It's still locked. She's still lost. I don't know where she is. Right. Any money on her or phone? She's got no phone. Does she need any medical attention or medication? She does. For epilepsy, she really needs, support. She needs help.
I told her, you are safe. We will keep you safe. And if you need to run anywhere, you should go somewhere where you are safe.
Short days in November. Not enough daylight to find her. It was dark, it was cold. But could hear helicopters out there looking for her. It made me think they've got to find her. Surely they have. Go find my girl.
I woke up the next morning really early, and when she hadn't come home, for me that was like, something must be really seriously wrong.
It was out of character for Gaia just to go off like that. Being epileptic and having no medication with her wasn't good. I was thinking all kinds of things, wondering what could have happened.
A search is underway to find a missing teenager from Dorset. 19-year-old Gaia Pope was last seen in Swanage yesterday afternoon.
I knew that she would never leave us questioning and worrying like this on purpose. All I could think was we needed to raise awareness, get flyers distributed in every shop window, every business.
I mean, immediately setting up a Facebook group, getting the word out there, explaining what had happened, explaining what she looked like, explaining her epilepsy, ensuring that if people came across her or came across anything that they would know as much detail as possible.
Swanage really reminds me of the place where I grew up. It's a small town where everyone knows everyone. I can't imagine what impact Gaia's disappearance must have had on the community, or the other teenagers who'd always see her around town. What was the reaction like within the community when Gaia went missing?
For us in Swanage, everyone's quite tight-knit. It's a bit shocking because you don't really get stuff like that down here. How she gone missing, why she gone missing. They were warning us at school, don't wander off by yourself, stay in groups when you walk home, just in case.
I think most of us were quite nervous just because no one really knew why she went missing, so no one really knew what had happened, whether she had left or what had happened. I think parents got quite paranoid as well about letting their kids out at certain times.
What were the rumours that were going around the community at the time about what could have happened to Gaia?
There were some rumours that she had got taken.
A lot of the community believe that she was murdered.
If I'm going to understand what happened to Gaia, I need to know more about who she was and what it would have been like to grow up here. Hi, Dom.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Dom was one of Gaia's closest friends. So tell me a bit about Swanage.
Swanage is right down on the south coast. It's a beautiful place to live. Right out in the middle of nowhere, quite tucked away and hidden. One road in, one road out. Over there is Bournemouth, but if you don't travel as far, you'll get to Sandbanks, which is a very rich, quite a posh area. Lots of very nice, swanky houses. I feel like Swanage is the kind of weird cousin that no one really wants to talk to or hang out with.
What was it like for you and Gaia living here in Swanage?
I think at times it was a little bit frustrating because we're both quite extrovert. We did definitely get a little bit of cabin fever living here sometimes, but when we went to Brockenhurst College, it was like sort of escapism. It's like nothing like I'm used to.
When we were all finishing at secondary school, me, Maya and Gaia, we liked the idea of the freedom that college brought, and we'd have conversations about just breaking free to Brockenhurst College.
We were really excited to go to college because we thought we're going to leave Swanage behind.
When I met Gaia, we were just sat out at break and somebody was playing some music and she started dancing along with me. And I just thought she was a little bit wild, but it was so lovely.
As soon as she walks into the room, she just light the place up. She had the most gorgeous smile and a very contagious laugh. That time was really exciting for dating, friends. We were just in the full swing of it, you know?
In the first year of college, I think she absolutely was loving life, meeting all these new people. Like, instantly, she made a lot of friends.
She liked to sort of dabble in like makeup, bright colours. She sort of stood out in quite a good way. She was just like this sort of vision amongst, you know, sort of baggy jumpers and baggy jeans and tired eyes, and she was just there like, wow, you know?
Nathan was a really big part of the group as well.
A childhood friend of Gaia and Maya's. They were clearly very, very close.
Nathan and Gaia were quite flamboyant in their personalities, so it worked very well together.
Everyone was obsessed with Gaia. She was like the toast of the smoking area.
Concern is growing for the welfare of a teenager from Dorset. 19-year-old Gaia Pope, who has severe epilepsy, was last seen on Tuesday.
We were all getting really worried. It really started to set in that something was seriously wrong.
We were just desperately trying to brainstorm and think about places she could be.
We were desperate to find Gaia. I want my sister home.
I was frightened of finding her if I did go somewhere. Frightened of finding her lifeless. It was horrifying.
I wanted to be out there just running around the fields in the dark all night. And I really had to talk myself into, you know, that's pointless, that's stupid. You need to be smart and stay calm and not panic. So I stuck these Post-its on my mum's front door. And it just said, Gaia, we love you. The door's open. It's warm in here. Just come in.
One of the strangest things about Gaia's disappearance is that days into her being missing, still no one knows anything. Swanage is such a tiny community, you know, everyone knows everyone's faces, so it's strange to think that Gaia just vanished into thin air.
Dorset police today released CCTV images of Gaia Pope. taken less than an hour before the last confirmed sighting of her.
That was a very scary moment because you could tell that she was very distressed. I was so scared for her.
I could see the look on my sister's face. She was terrified, like she was trying to hold everything together, like she was panicking.
Police have now issued CCTV footage which is believed to show Gaia shortly before she disappeared. Officers have already carried out a large number of inquiries.
Local journalist Steve Humphrey was following the Gaia story from the start.
We discovered that after leaving Gaia Road, this road here, she'd then been captured on CCTV running up the hill in Morrison Road. And that's why we went to this area in the hope of actually talking to people who might have seen her. And while we were there, just by chance, we bumped into a lady who was walking down the road, who said to us that she was the last person to have seen Gaia Pope.
There was bang, bang, bang on the door. Just sort of, help me, bang. Bang, bang, help. Pounding. And I said, what are you doing? Gaia, come in. Just come in.
Do you know what the matter was?
No.
Didn't
No.
tell you?
She's just upset, very upset.
And she spent about how long with you?
About 20 minutes.
And then left?
Yes. I have no idea where she is. She just seems to have disappeared.
Police had been told that Gaia had been to Rosemary's house, but no one knew why. At the time when you saw this lady walking down the street, you had no idea who it was.
No. And then, of course, that was the beginning of what turned into, you know, a major development in the story.
The woman he was speaking to turned out to be Rosemary Dinch, the grandmother of Gaia's childhood and college friend, Nathan.
My son Nathan became best friends with Gaia and Maya. They were noisy, and of course they were all such huge characters.
Maya, normally, how did you break your leg? Harry, what?
We were quite naughty and we were kind of obsessed with pranks. So we would play pranks on my sisters.
Any good, Gaia? Good?
Debbie was a single mum and I was a single parent. So we found solace and comfort together. The children would play with their camcorder and I think they shared a common mischievousness.
Okay, guys, you see this? This is a live remote. When I press pause, the whole world stops. Anyway, pause.
Detectives investigating the disappearance of Dorset teenager Gaia Pope have now launched a murder inquiry.
Her disappearance is completely out of character, and we sadly now believe that she may have come to harm.
In the last hour and a half, Dorset police have confirmed 2 people have been arrested on suspicion of murder.
71-year-old Rosemary Dinch and Rosemary's grandson, reported to be 19-year-old Nathan Elsey, was also arrested on suspicion of murder.
We were sat down in the kitchen and a police officer came in and told us that Nathan Elsey had been arrested and that they thought it might be murder. And I remember feeling sick to my stomach. Maya had been really struggling, and I remember having to tell her that one of her closest childhood friends had potentially murdered our sister.
I just remember seeing a picture of my best friend getting into the back of a police car. I felt like my whole world was crumbling.
I got a phone call and he said, my son Nathan and Mum have been arrested. My mother was 71 at the time, and they arrested her for murder and kidnap. Nathan was 19 and arrested for suspicion of murder.
Sorry. Total disbelief. Can't be so.
How could we have been so wrong about them? My heart dropped. I mean, I knew that Nathan would never do anything like that.
I couldn't really make it make any sense in my mind. I'd always seen him as one of Gaia's closest friends from childhood.
We've seen forensic officers going in and out in white suits. We've seen sniffer dogs. A major incident vehicle turned up a short time ago.
I started thinking, have they found a body?
The police seemed very confident that Nathan and his grandmother were involved. But why? I've been given an independent report into Dorset Police's investigation by someone who wants to remain anonymous. I'm just trying to fill in some of the gaps. I mean, what's really clear is the fact that Gaia was looking for Nathan. She actually went to his grandmother Rosemary's house where Nathan often stayed. A neighbour actually told the police that she heard the sound of a young woman screaming from Nathan's grandmother's flat. Someone being distraught, screaming, very hysterical. You can understand that this could be seen as quite suspicious. And as soon as he was arrested, the forensic team moved in. They removed sink traps from the kitchen and the bathroom in search of any DNA evidence like blood or hair. They even cut away part of his mattress because they said that it was blood-stained. So then Nathan was stripped and searched. This is a transcript from one of Nathan's police interviews. The police asked, why would Gaia go looking for you at your grandmother's house? And essentially, Nathan just says he has no idea. So I've just been reading Rosemary Dinch's statement, who is Nathan's grandmother. It says in the statement, Gaia said she'd come to see Nathan. Gaia started to become a bit frantic and started shouting. Gaia said she was pregnant with Nathan's baby. And then she leaves. And she's never seen again. The police then put this to Nathan. Why did Gaia say that she was pregnant with your child? And he says, I've had no contact for the past 13 months. There was never a sexual relationship, never boyfriend and girlfriend, never kissed. So there's two very different stories here, and something really isn't adding up.
Okay, everybody ready? I can tell you that today, a member of the public has identified clothing south of Priestley Road in Swanage that we believe was worn by Gaia.
So there's still a chance that Gaia is alive?
I'm not going to speculate. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate your time.
I managed to track down one of those walkers who originally found Gaia's clothes. Her name is Sally.
This is where we walked, like just me and my grandpa.
We're retracing her steps on Dancing Ledge.
Literally, it was like just here. Her clothes were just kind of like sprinkled down here, so it was her knickers first, her underwear, which we walked past and thought, oh, that's really weird, you know. But then we saw like trousers, shirt, shoes, and then it just kind of dawned on us that like that's very abnormal.
What was your grandfather's reaction when he saw the clothing?
As soon as I said, do you think it's that girl that uses underwear, he was very serious about it and like very quick to react and be like, we need to call the police and we need to do it now. When it kind of hit me that there was more clothing and something else was going on, it did make me feel like really yucky. It made my stomach churn. What was going through my head was like, someone's been raped. That's where my head went, which is quite dark, I know, but...
No, but if you've seen women's underwear on the floor, and then you're seeing her clothing scattered, what else are you going to think? This place is so vast. The terrain is quite rough. First of all, I mean, Gaia ran a huge distance.
Yeah, it's not like she could just run straight through a field here. Like, there's all these stone walls, there's blackberry bushes. You really would have to be kind of running from something to kind of flee this way.
I had to see a picture of her trainer before I believed it. I thought, no, it couldn't be her, that it was somebody else's clothes. It was only when I saw her trainer that I was like, okay, yeah, that's hers.
This morning, the police are scouring the cliff tops here, and her family and her friends remain hopeful that Gaia can still be found alive.
We will not stop until we find Gaia Pope.
Can you tell us that a 71-year-old woman and a 19-year-old male...
I can. They've been released under investigation, and that investigation continues, along with a number of other avenues of investigation that we will explore.
I remember when we said, oh, well, do you have anything? The police just sort of said, well, we can't tell you what's going on with the investigation. And as soon as they said that, I was thinking they've got nothing.
Just days later, just days later, both Nathan and his grandmother were cleared of any involvement in Gaia's disappearance.
That accusation will always be there. Nathan had messages saying that I hope you go to prison for the rest of your life. He wasn't safe going anywhere on his own. My mum, they broke her spirit to shame somebody so publicly at the age of 71. She didn't recover from that.
The search for Gaia Pope is being stepped up. Police and volunteers are about to set off.
They came in their hundreds, refusing to give up hope. Some were local, most don't even know Gaia Pope or her family, but they were all here to help.
We're going to try and do line searches, so as many people have as many eyes on the ground as we can.
There's so many wonderful people that really went out of their way to come and join us and to search for Gaia. It was a grassroots miracle. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And it was the only thing that kept us going.
And we kept going out and searching and searching and searching. Nothing else mattered at this point.
During the search for Gaia, I had a dream. And it was the most vivid dream I've probably ever had in my life. In my dream, it was like some beautiful field, but with like a wall and some ruins or something. And it also flashed me a picture of rocks. She came to me and she hugged me and she said, "I love you, I have to go." She walked away and I said, "I don't want you to go." And she said, "No, but I have to."
The search for Gaia Pope has been going on for 11 days, but that search has come to an end.
I got a call that I needed to go back to my aunt's house and there was an update. We were sat cramped into this living room. Everyone was there. My dad's side of the family, my mum's side of the family. To hear my dad sit down and say that our little bird has flown. And it was like time stopped for a moment.
The body of a young woman has been found and they were confident it was that of Gaia Pope.
I was catatonic in a state of shock. She was my best friend, the light of my life.
Everything crashed around me. I'd lost my identical twin sister. I was totally alone.
It was the worst moment of my life.
There has been a great deal of sadness in this seaside town since it was announced that the body of Gaia Pope had been found.
I don't think anyone expects to lose a friend when you're just a teenager. It was hard.
Although the search is at an end, the questions only increase about just what happened to the Dorset teenager. Steve, how would you assess the mood of the community this evening?
Sally, a real sense of sadness and plenty of tears here in Swanage since Gaia Pope's body was discovered on Saturday. Her family say there are still plenty of unanswered questions.
I was thinking all kinds of things, wondering what could have happened. Was she put there? Did she take herself up there? And if so, why wasn't she found?
I was convinced that Gaia did not die of suicide. I just knew it had to be something else.
The police now say that it will be a case of further forensic examination and a coroner's inquiry to work out exactly what led to Gaia Pope's death, which at this time remains unexplained.
Katerina, thank you.
Thank you. News journalist Katerina Vitozzi had been sent to Swanage to cover the story. What exactly was her cause of death?
The pathology report told us that Gaia had died from hypothermia. It was surprising and it was shocking, and it was also, you know, deeply sad to think that this was a young girl who had died in a way which was so exposing and so vulnerable. And to think of her being in that place and dying in that way, it was really horrific. The pathology report explained how when someone is affected by hypothermia, they can often feel hot. And so a response to that can be people will try and take their clothes off. And the sequence of how Gaia's clothes were found suggested that she had undressed herself in an attempt to cool her body down, where in fact what she needed to do was warm up.
So once the cause of death was established, where did that leave you?
In some respects, it actually left us in a more confusing place, because then there becomes this mystery of, well, what drove Gaia to that cliff top to die in that truly horrific way? What was she running from? Who was she running from? We just didn't know.
I'm beginning to think that the fields at Dancing Ledge don't hold the full story of what happened to Gaia. To find out the truth, I'm going to need to go further back into Gaia's past and the months and years before she died. I think the best way that I can get to know her is probably through her Instagram. This is in 2014, so she would have been, 15. It's so clear that she was a normal girl. She had a lot of friends. She had fun. Now I'm in 2017. So this is literally 72 hours before she went missing. Straight to that stupid bitch from college that called me bipolar for reporting a pedo on Facebook and tell her about it. Sorry, I was just enjoying the music too much, without a filter too. Hashtag slutty girls, hashtag slut shaming. Like, she's hashtagged sexual assault awareness, sexual assault many, many, many times. Why has she done that? But none of this makes any sense. You really write poetry on your head when you're walking away from someone that stinks like Donald Trump's body waste and is disturbing your breakfast/social media addiction. The caption is, mental illness caused by other people is a thing. To her, this obviously makes sense to post this. But like, to most people reading this, it doesn't make any sense at all. Just shows what was going on in her mind around that time. I'm walking around with the sweaty palms and a cold body. I don't know, she's talking in code. I don't really understand that at all. But like, it's really eerie that this is her last post. Incredibly eerie. It feels to me like she wants to be heard about something. You can see a change in her. Something's happened here along the way. Something has shaken her up. Something has left her feeling desperate. And I want to know what that is.
Gaia, you know, she had boyfriends, she was very popular.
Gaia had a few boyfriends. She attracted quite a genuine type of person, which, I mean, would be nice, you know.
I'm sure there were people who probably did have massive crushes on Gaia, but I think she had her own romantic life outside of college.
There was one boy, he had messaged her on Facebook.
You know, Gaia was a friendly person and she would make friends with people. He said that he was suffering from learning difficulties and that he was having a really hard time making friends.
I can remember that Gaia was texting him quite a lot, but she wouldn't really tell me too much. The details were quite sort of vague.
I mean, I was a little bit concerned because it was somebody that had reached out over Facebook and I was like, be careful, you know.
When she mentioned his name, I'd actually heard of him before. He was quite a well-known name by a lot of girls around our age.
He had quite a reputation around Bournemouth and Poole. A reputation of being a bit pushy and forward.
So I've been doing a bit of digging into that first contact between Gaia and Connor Hayes. And I found out that Connor Hayes first contacted Gaia when she was 16 and he was 21. I've received a message from a young woman who wants to remain anonymous, and it's a voice message from Connor Hayes.
Hello, lovely to meet you. I'm so glad you liked my status, because honestly, I clicked on your Facebook and I saw your photos, and whoa. I'm wondering if you're free tomorrow to meet up. Got my own little business, which I'm going to tell you about when I meet you. Bad boy with a good heart, that's my motto.
Knowing what I know now, there's a lot of pressure in that message. It's forward, it's a bit creepy, but I do think that to a young girl, that's a confident young man who has got a lot of charisma, and it sounds like he's quite serious. A message like that would be quite enticing.
With only a couple of clicks on social media, she could have never expected the danger there was to come.
Something had happened. She felt violated, but she didn't tell me because she wanted to protect me.
Gaia was afraid of him. She was terrified.
Hope you're ready for a fucking naughty show, you piece of shit. I know I've never met you properly or anything, but I want us to be friends on Facebook. You're sound, you're fit, you're just a nice girl. Just don't believe what you see about me, because there's people that don't even know me that make about me. So I just want us to be mates, if that's cool.
Police said the body of a young woman had been found and they were confident it was that of the missing teenager.
Her clothes were just kind of like sprinkled. Her knickers, her underwear. It made my stomach churn.
What drove Gaia to that cliff top? What was she running from? Who was she running from?
The mystery of what lies behind the lonely death of 19-year-old Gaia may have started years before her disappearance.
There was one boy, He had messaged her on Facebook.
We knew what he was like. With only a couple of clicks on social media, she could have never expected the danger there was to come. On the day that she went missing, I can only imagine that she was scared and fearful and, you know, desperately trying to escape.
You'll never know what it's like to be fine.
This is a place that she knew and meant so much to her. She must have just been desperately seeking safety, really running away from something. Yeah.
I think her brain was trying to protect her from everything.
When we were about 15, 16, were some of Gaia's happiest years. Her grades were really good and she wanted to be a midwife. But as a teenager in Swanage, you're quite isolated. So social media was a way to stay in touch.
We had group chats. We could be talking non-stop, send them funny pictures on Snapchat.
She'd have loads of followers because her profile picture was very beautiful and a lot of men would add Gaia on Facebook.
I think people definitely fancied her. Boys would sort of be quite interested in her.
Gaia came to meet Connor because he had messaged her on Facebook and said, I just want to get to know you. And at the time, she was a bit charmed.
He said, oh, I've had a really difficult time at school. And Gaia sympathised with him because her epilepsy and how much she'd struggled at school as well. I remember her saying to me, oh yeah, I've made this new friend. You know, I'm trying to be there for him and it's nice because he understands what I'm going through.
She had been texting Connor Hayes quite a lot. There was a lot back and forth. I think she could feel that there was some chemistry there, some sparks.
At college, Gaia's friend Connie already knew of Connor Hayes from her younger years hanging out in Bournemouth. As Gaia's friend, what was your reaction when she first told you she was speaking to Connor Hayes?
The second that, Gaia said his name, it was just like alarm bells. I was just like, please do not, just leave that whole thing alone and, don't even go there because it's just had, a reputation of messing around with, I don't know, underage girls. When I first heard of Connor, he had, a 14-year-old girlfriend and he was in his late teens, early 20s. And he spent a long time trying to pressure her into having sex with him. I very much tried to put my foot down and be like, no, this guy's a bit of a nasty character. You need to stop talking to him. But she saw this side to him that she thought was good.
It's concerning to think that Gaia was meeting up with an older man who had a reputation for manipulating teenage girls. So I'm digging into his background a bit to find out more about him. the first thing that comes up is this article, 2 friends filmed having sex with teenager in online video. And it says friends who filmed themselves having sex with a teenage girl in a video, which was later uploaded to the internet, have been jailed. Connor Hayes was sentenced to 2 years in prison after exploiting his vulnerable victim in 2014. So 2014, interesting because that is the same year that Connor was also pursuing Gaia. At the time, Connor Hayes was 21 and Gaia had just turned 16. There's also a link here. It looks like a porn website.
Hope you're ready for a fucking naughty show, you piece of shit.
I know that's Connor Hayes. The video's title says the other man is called William Wright. It looks like they're performing sex acts online. They're webcamming for money. That kind of content is perfectly legal. But it's disturbing to think what this might have meant for Gaia. When she met Connor, she didn't know anything about his webcamming, and he'd not yet been convicted of any sex offences.
I remember Gaia talking to me about going on a date with Connor Hayes. You know, we didn't know too much about him, but she was quite sort of intrigued by him and she was really looking forward to it. I remember she was excited. She was a little bit nervous because it was like a first date. I mean, who wouldn't be nervous?
They just decided to meet up in Bournemouth, like in a public place.
I remember saying to her, oh, do you really think you should meet up with somebody you've met online? And she said, no, I think it's totally fine. At that point, he'd certainly gained her trust.
I asked her for a location, what time, and I knew the Facebook profile. I found out his home address, and she was messaging me while she was there, so I thought, everything's fine because I'm getting updates. Afterwards, Gaia didn't say much. She just said, oh, he's, yeah, nice enough. And she wanted to go see him again. So we said next time, go round to the house and meet his mum.
Word has got around in Bournemouth that I'm looking into Connor Hayes, and many women have got in touch to share their stories about him.
When I first met Connor Hayes, I was 13 years old. He was wanting to perform sex acts on camera.
I was 15, he was 20. He had asked me if me and his friend could have a threesome.
I ended up with him sending pictures of his penis to me. I would probably be 13 to 14 years old.
It's clear that Connor Hayes was targeting very young girls. Several have sent me the messages that they got from him. The more I hear, the more obvious it is that he had a well-practiced routine. So how did you first cross paths with Connor Hayes?
So on Facebook, I received a random friends request from him when I was 13. And then when I was 15, I got another sort of friend request from him. This time he was really persistent, like with messaging. So he'd pretty much pop up every day and say, hello, how are you? Just like friendly, casual conversation. And then I didn't reply for about an hour and a half. And things just quickly like turned. Like, he'd send me messages like, why are you ignoring me? Like, have I done something to upset you? And then later that night, he'd sent me some pictures, like some unsolicited pictures of his privates, and basically like insinuated that I was, in his words, going to get it.
What were those initial messages that he sent you?
Just friendly conversation. There's a lot of flattery, like, you're so beautiful. I was 15, I'd never really had older people pay me attention like that before. So for him to do that, it made me just feel really nice about myself. And like I could trust him. And then he started to want more. So he would ask to see parts of me and stuff. And at 15, you're still a bit shy. He would also show me sexual things, which I hadn't really seen before, so I didn't really know how to react. And then after a couple of weeks of that, he asked me to sign a contract, like a dominant and like slave kind of contract, which freaked me out.
I mean, that is, like, it blows your mind, doesn't it, that someone would do that to a 15-year-old girl?
Yeah. So I felt really like ashamed of myself for being that vulnerable. And it actually made me really upset.
That's okay, that's okay. So did you keep all of this to yourself?
Yeah. It's so easy to get swept along with it. At that point, my sister came to me and said, like, I've been speaking to this guy. And she like showed me a thing and I was like, don't speak to him. I was like, just block him. I was like, he's nasty. And I told her about it, and then she was like, oh, he's messaged our other two sisters as well. And then we were all sat there just like absolutely mind blown that this guy had messaged all of us and none of us had spoke to each other.
I've been messaged by another woman, Kirsty, who knew Connor Hayes and wants to tell me about a video she was sent. What kind of reputation did Connor have around Bournemouth?
So in the beginning, he wasn't really well known, obviously, until we started doing camming with like girls and stuff like that. And then there was a video shared around in a Facebook group. It was Connor and another male and a visibly young girl. They had their genitals and that out, and this young girl was pleasuring them, and it was all just being filmed. Like they were just laying on a bed.
How did you feel when you saw that video?
I felt so bad for the girl, knowing that obviously it was being sent around our group. If it was being sent around our group, like where else was it being shared? It hit a nerve, and I posted on Facebook trying to warn other girls what he'd been doing.
Did you know anything about Gaia?
No, not really. But obviously there were rumours going around that Connor may have been involved in the whole thing. But that's what I can't say for sure, no.
Gaia went to see Connor again.
She said she was going to stay the night. But then we got a call from the Gaia.
She rang me up to say she wanted me to pick her up in the early hours of the morning. She wanted to come home.
Me and my mum drove over to Bournemouth. I didn't see Connor and I didn't see the mother. But there was something about her eyes. They looked glassy. I'd never seen them like that before. And she was smiling. And I knew it was a fake smile, that something had gone down. and that she was trying to reassure me. Yeah.
She expressed something to me saying that she didn't want to see this person anymore. We had no idea what had truly happened.
Maybe in the next few days, she was very, very scared, and she asked me to sleep in her bed with her. And I could feel the fear coming off her. She was shaking, and I could hear her breathing was funny. And I was trying to hug her, but she didn't want me to hug her. She was saying, I'm just terrified, I'm terrified. And I couldn't ask. I was like, why are you so terrified? And she wouldn't tell me. She was like, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. I'm just terrified, like I'm petrified. In the months after we realised that she was experiencing some really intense anxiety.
It all went downhill from that point on. There was a total change in Gaia's personality. She went from bubbly and bright to kind of really scared and almost paranoid.
She wasn't comfortable going into college or solo travelling. Eventually, it turned into her just not wanting to go at all.
She definitely did become increasingly isolated from us.
I'm trying to find out more about the webcamming culture surrounding Connor Hayes and the guy he was camming with, William Wright. I think Connor Hayes has taken a lot of his stuff down, but Will Wright is easier to track. What's extraordinary is that he featured in a BBC documentary in 2015.
There's 1,000 ways to make money on the internet. And webcams mean anyone can be a porn star. It's believed that more than 100,000 British men have performed online for cash.
So £100 each, yeah?
Yeah, sounds good. I don't find anything weird now. Everyone enjoys having a wank, so getting paid for it's even better.
The programme was made by a journalist I know, Mabeen Azhar. I'm going to find out more. Hi, Mabeen.
I think the last time I was here was when I was making Webcam Boys. It was kind of pre-OnlyFans. I guess it was pre any proper influencer culture.
So it was quite disruptive in a way.
Yeah, completely. It was really disruptive. One of the guys who was at the center of all of this stuff was Will Wright. So they'd set up a company. It's so ridiculous. It was called Ooh La La.
Okay.
And the idea that they were presenting, it was kind of bespoke content. And you might drop them a line and then say, I'm really into this particular fetish or this particular scene. I'd like to see you on your webcam.
Yeah. Who were their audience?
It tended to be gay men, a little bit older and wealthier. Guys that I met here, they were all straight men. They had no issue. You know, they were like, it's just a way of making money. It doesn't matter who's watching. You know, ultimately, what were they doing? They were masturbating on camera. That's what they were doing.
Yeah.
But there was other stuff going on in the background. They would check into a hotel. This is one of them, actually. At one point, Will said, we're filming something tonight. It's a woman. We do these clips, so we film, and then we send these clips out, and people can pay a fee for them. Within 10 minutes, this woman arrived, you know, fairly young. And then all of a sudden, it kind of tipped into, okay, so you're making porn.
I want to understand more about how these webcammers operated, so I've asked Mabine to show me some footage.
This is a night we went out, and it was Will and it's his best mate. And the idea is they're recruiting people to their business.
Excuse me, girls. How you doing? Are you interested in a new company? It's a webcam modelling. Have you ever heard of webcam modelling? It's really big money. It's better than being in the strip club and getting touched up, you know?
Oh my
You agree? You agree?
I think you're not interested.
You don't actually have to always strip. So sometimes me and are in our clothes, and you just show your feet. Because a lot of people are into feet, you know?
Oh my God.
Like, you watch that and you think, very seedy. If a guy approached me like that on the street, I'd probably be a bit freaked out.
At the time, I certainly dismissed it as just silly, just stupid, and now seems a lot more sinister. His game here is he's trying to minimize what this is about. He's saying, oh, it's not that big a deal. You can just, you know, show images of your feet. Whereas he knows full well the direction of traffic, it's only one way. It gets more and more and more extreme.
Mm-hmm.
You can call this recruiting, and you can call it a kind of spiel and a bit of game. Or you can call it grooming, actually.
I never saw them ask the age of these girls. Did they do that throughout their recruitment process?
I honestly can't remember them ever asking anyone their age. This is in the hotel, so some of this stuff is not very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mabine wants to show me an interview he filmed with Will Wright that has never been broadcast.
When you talk about sex, you talk about dominating women. Yeah, is that your preference?
Yeah, I love. Yeah, no, I love. I love like dominating girls. Yeah, I love treating them like a slut. I get like a thrill from it. It sounds nasty, but I get a thrill of like just treating them. Yeah, nasty. I treat them with respect, but sort of not in the bedroom. I don't treat girls in the bedroom, but outside sort of do. So I just like putting them in places basically. I do love it.
Well, where does that come from?
I don't know. Maybe because of the stuff I do, like slave and master stuff. Maybe that might be. But I've always been a bit like proper, just fucking putting them in place sort of thing. I think it's growing as well since the more sex you have and more like things you do like this. I think you enter like get into different things as well. Because at first like you just do like normal sex when you're younger, then, and then you just want to like back them up, basically.
Do you worry about how you think about women, or do you think it's completely normal?
No, not at all. Like I still treat girls like with respect outside the bedrooms, but don't you laugh? I do to a certain extent. Like I still respect them. I'm a nice person, but I just love dominating them. Yeah.
It's shocking. You can see how desensitized they are to sex and violent sex. I mean, how did you feel when you were recording that?
I was quite grossed out by it. I think also maybe I was quite dismissive of it being within this kind of world of role play.
Yeah.
I do struggle with this, Zara, because I think at the time, the whole kind of energy around this project was about not being judgmental. I'd see all this and just thought it was stupid and it was a bit offensive and it was a bit gross, but ultimately it was harmless.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's true. Like watching it now, I don't think it was harmless. You know, having sex on a webcam on demand, talking about fucking women up, and you talk about that stuff with your friends. I don't think you can just shrug your shoulders and say, okay, that was my day at work, I'm finished. I'm gonna go back to my life now. I think it changes your wiring. And I think that's probably what happened.
To be honest, I felt sick to my stomach watching some of that footage back. How this group of guys, Connor, you know, being one of them, even though he wasn't in the film, I know that he was in the circle, like how they viewed women and their views on sex. essentially they are predators. They are essentially grooming girls. They're creating this fantasy about what it's like to work in the webcam industry and kind of how glamorous it is and how easy it is. And, you know, how easy is it for a young girl to be roped into that? We made contact with William Wright, but he declined to take part in this documentary.
Gaia stopped coming into college. There was just like a total change in Gaia's personality. She went from bubbly and bright to kind of really scared and almost paranoid at times about the people around her and the intentions of the people around her.
She was really suffering. Someone who hasn't experienced anxiety before to be having quite extreme panic attacks.
She was continually having these sort of mood swings and a lot of screaming and crying. It would just come on very suddenly, sort of out of nowhere.
We couldn't keep her calm. It was out of control. We knew we needed to call somebody fast because she was a risk to herself. We decided that we would drive her into accident emergency. She was talking a lot and shouting, and we couldn't quite understand what she was trying to tell us. And so, grabbing a notepad and a pen, she just started writing and writing and writing.
There were pieces of paper everywhere, you know, very jumbled thoughts.
I said to her, "Has someone hurt you?" And written down on a page was Connor's name.
We'd pieced together everything she'd written down and everything that she was saying. And it was clear she'd been raped.
Gaia was getting these flashbacks of what had gone on.
She could remember Connor and a friend sort of go behind a kitchen wall to make a cup of tea for her. And Gaia sort of was thinking, you don't need two people to make a cup of tea. Like something was clearly up there.
She thought that ketamine was put in her tea, but she can't be sure what it was.
She was definitely on something because she felt like the room was spinning and the ceiling and the floor were swapping. It wasn't just Connor Hayes. It was Connor Hayes and some other guy.
Gaia was also worried that Connor Hayes had filmed that night. So that was sort of an unknown kind of, you know, fear, an extra layer of threat to this horrific event already.
When I found out, I was so angry. How dare anybody hurt our girl, treat her like a thing.
Gaia was afraid of him. She was afraid of his friends. He threatened to kill the whole family if she told anybody. It felt like the world was so cruel and nothing was safe. Gaia's soul changed. She just went inside of herself. It felt like she wouldn't come back from that. It was a perfect storm.
I'm concerned about Maya. Retelling Gaia's story is making her increasingly anxious. I'm becoming aware of how deeply Maya's research drew her into the world of Conor Hayes.
I'd heard through the grapevine about other women that were experiencing serious anxiety and mental health problems by the same perpetrator. I wanted to know the psychology of Conor Hayes' mind. I wanted to know how he works, and I wanted to try and prevent him from committing more crimes and try and figure out exactly who he targeted among other students. I saw that he had multiple accounts. That's the original account that I found.
And that's a different spelling to his name.
All the Facebook accounts he had, they're under different aliases so that you couldn't see a personal history. Mainly it was direct messages to women that were vulnerable. He would mention sex, and he would mention drugs, and he would mention hotel parties, and would invite young women.
What I find actually the most interesting is that he only has 300 followers, but he's following nearly 1,400 people. That shows to me like he's trying to access and trying to communicate with lots and lots of different accounts. And when you click on his following, it's a lot of young women.
I thought that evidence I had pointed fingers at Conor Hayes and the offences that he had not just committed, but he was planning to commit more, and it was totally orchestrated. I called the police and asked to report a rape. The police came to the hospital that day, and it was decided that they wouldn't be able to interview her just yet because she was in crisis. So I did my video interview before Gaia did hers. The preparation was intense, like I didn't sleep, and then I gathered all of my notes together, screenshots of some of Conor Hayes' messages, and I went in with everything. At the start of the interview, I met the policewoman who was leading the investigation for the CID. She said to me, "Just so you know, I'm known as the Bloodhound, and they call me that for a reason." That had given me the confidence, her saying that. She said to me, "We will catch him."
We were getting ready for her police interviews. Gaia was very scared. She was steeling herself for something that she knew wasn't going to be easy. But she was very worried that there were other victims. She wanted to do her part to protect other girls. And I said I would be very happy to go with her. I was 7 when the twins were born. And that felt like a very big moment because when I was little, Gaia's mum always used to joke that she wanted to have a lot of daughters so that I would have sisters because I'm an only child. And the first time I saw the twins, she said, "Oh, you know they're yours, right?" And I took that very seriously. I was like, okay, they're my little sisters. It's my job to look after them always. These are the notes that we made before her first interview. They're Gaia's words, I was just noting them down. Meeting Conor Hayes. Seemed normal. Went for coffee and some food. He told me that he was a professional model for some company. He was always trying to hug me, but I wasn't really comfortable with that. She doesn't actually write Connor Hayes, she just writes CH. 24th of October. At this time, he was saying he wanted us to be together, but I was saying no. Then when we left and we were walking back, he was saying my outfit was disgusting and making lots of comments about my body. This was when I really started to feel unsafe. His friend came round. I don't remember his name. They spent a lot of time whispering together about me in the next room. CH was talking about them having a threesome with me. I stayed standing in the room, trying to stay alert and listen to everything. After a few hours, I wanted to come home. He said he'd walk me to the stop, but he kept putting it off. And then it was late, so he told me to stay with him and that he would sleep on the sofa. I don't remember deciding to go to sleep. I just remember waking up at about 3 a.m. with him trying to kiss me. I remember him touching me and that I was finding it difficult to move or speak. I woke up with pain and bleeding, but I wasn't on my period. After that, I was worried that he'd touched me or had sex with me and that I couldn't remember. After that time, I wanted him out of my life. He said he was in love with me, and if I left him, he would knock on every door in Swanage trying to find me. CH said that if I told anyone that he had done anything bad to me, he would not hurt me because he would get into trouble and probably go to prison, but that his family would because they could. Started blocking him on social media.
Once Gaia made her allegation of rape, the police started an investigation. But it was always going to be her word against his.
I've got hold of an official report of Dorset Police's investigation into Gaia's rape allegation. It gives some details of when Connor Hayes was arrested.
Hayes was interviewed twice. The first time, he answered no comment to all questions. The second, he denied all of Gaia's allegations.
Hayes says that Gaia stayed over twice and they had consensual sex a number of times on each occasion. Hayes was asked if he and Witness E ever discussed having a threesome with Gaia. So I'm presuming that Witness E is the male friend of Connor's that Gaia described as being present. He just responded, "I don't know." He then states that he messaged Gaia a few weeks later to ask if she was all right. Why would you ask someone if they're all right? Surely that indicates that something may not be all right.
What really strikes me about this report isn't the police's attitude towards Connor, but towards Gaia.
Gaia was interviewed twice by the police, and there's a lot of references in the report to the inconsistencies from both accounts. The report reads, Gaia's recollections were vague, hazy, and confused. But after speaking to Gaia's family, we know that Gaia says that she was drugged. So of course, her recollections are going to be vague, hazy, and confused. The police also raise a lot of questions as to why Gaia did not report the rape immediately. Why did she not report these instances for almost a year? This is a difficult case for the police. There's no witnesses. Connor is denying absolutely everything. There's no messages or videos of Gaia found on Connor's computer. There's no forensic evidence, no CCTV.
Based on this, they had to decide whether they could press charges.
Weeks went into months and there had just been no communication from the police whatsoever. And every day a guy was waking up like, is he gonna knock on my door today?
After 5 months, the police called Gaia. According to the report I've seen, they told her they believed her allegation, but there wasn't enough evidence to take her case forward.
She listened, but she didn't say much.
I think she just lost all hope. It was the one chance that she had to feel safe. Yeah, I just saw the light lost in her eyes that day.
How have the police not listened to Gaia? He was so well known for what he was doing.
But while the police dropped Gaia's case, the news broke that Connor Hayes had been charged and eventually convicted of another sex offence.
Gaia's friend sent her a post from the Dorset Police Facebook page. It was like an atomic bomb went off.
The police listed the charges and they were there for everybody to see.
The response to the conviction from the local community was overwhelming.
I was absolutely astounded to know how many people have been impacted by this guy. It reiterated to me how much of a monster he is.
I know I've never met you properly or anything.
Even after his arrest, Connor Hayes was still messaging girls.
Just don't believe what you see about me. There's people that don't even know me that make shit up about me.
Connor Hayes was already under investigation by Dorset Police. They knew of and were in touch with other victims. There were bail conditions that he wasn't supposed to go near Swanage until he would be sentenced.
But then Connor Hayes had sent her a message and she was panicking. It started a chain of events that I knew would lead to disaster.